call to order the Board of Finance, the special Board of Finance meeting for 4:45 p.m. June 29th, and would welcome a motion regarding the agenda. Thank you, Councilor Jang. Do we have a second? Second by Councilor Paul. Discussion of the agenda. Seeing none, we'll go to vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries unanimously, and we have an agenda. This brings us to the public forum. Is there any member of the public that would like to speak to the Board of Finance? Welcome, Solveig. You could
Yeah, let's
try to
place I'm supposed to.
work and speak from there, or you can come to the chair if you'd like, whatever you feel comfortable with. And
Yeah,
you try to keep your comments to about 2 minutes. So.
The audio, I just didn't know if people could hear me.
I think we have special powers in the audio.
Yeah. Does it work? Okay. Well, I know probably everyone knows me. My name is Solveig Overby, and I have 3 questions that I wanted to ask and concerns that I wanted to talk about. The first one is, when is the city's audit going to be released? I know I've been told it's like not going to happen for a while, but every year I try to update a document that has sort of a summary of a lot of the problems that have been happening every year, year after year, in the way that the management letter is saying we are not doing a good job with capital financing, capital project financing. So this is the document that I try to update. So I'm waiting to get those numbers because they need to be updated for fiscal year 2023. So that's a question for you guys. I don't know if you've been told that. The second thing, I was looking at your work session numbers on some of the proposals of how to deal with the budget. And there was an item on one of the slides about cutting costs, about the goal of operation studies to reduce non-public safety spending by at least $3 million. So I'm just curious of where you're going with that, what that might be. I have a question about that. I don't know if that's in some other document that I could be directed to. I'm sure people have my email address. And another one of the slides in that same slideshow talked about revenue growth of 0.6, expected increase in GRLOT and FF based. I need to know what that is. I have no idea what that $600,000 increase in revenue is. And it would be helpful for me as a citizen to know what does GRLOT and FF based mean as where we're going to get another $600,000. So that, there's other stuff in that. So that was my second thing. And the third thing is, I know that we were supposed to, I happen to be looking at the letter of intent for the gateway block. And one of the items, I noticed that it doesn't mention the $800,000 reimbursement that we're going to have to pay to Schurz in order to relocate the Burlington telecom equipment, if that's in the basement. And maybe it's already been moved, but I don't know that. So I'm trying to figure out in this budget, maybe it's already been moved. We've already spent some money. In that case, I'd just like to know how much we spent to get that equipment moved out of the Burlington basement of Memorial Auditorium and relocated wherever it is. Or we are on the hook for another $80,000 to move it if we do go forward with selling off or leasing the Memorial Auditorium property. So that might have been somewhere in this document or another document, but I didn't see that $800 potential cost in this $9 million lost or deficit. So those are my 3 questions. Well, you got that should be filed with the record of this meeting. And actually, this is the exhibit. I would probably give you that one too. This is the exhibit that summarizes the fact that we are on the hook for up to $800,000 to relocate the Burlington telecom. And maybe
It's all done. It's all done. So
perfect. That's good. So you can answer me. I don't know how it gets answered, but that's handy.
generally, this is not a place for back and forth.
No. It can be emailed. Somebody can email me, but
We'll say there's new documents posted for tonight about there were questions about the budget document, so some of your questions are answered
Okay,
there.
I'll go look at those. I looked at
If you
that.
have further questions after that,
Perfect.
you might
I
email
didn't
CAO's office.
Yeah, I usually communicate with Gene, my city council, Gene, and so.
Is there anyone else that is
Yes.
wishing to speak to the board?
City councilor Busher.
Okay, welcome. Sharon, we could try to keep your remarks to about 2 minutes, that'd be great.
Yes, well, you've already heard my, oops, sorry. You've already heard my comments before, but I am concerned about calling up additional cents for 4% or 3 cents on the public safety tax, dedicated tax. And normally, I mean, if I was still in the workforce, I probably wouldn't be before you. I'd have concerns, but I wouldn't be in the same situation. I'm just concerned the cumulative impact of this tax in combination with the school request. And so my understanding, well, based on the people I've talked to, this will move forward, I believe. And I'm not saying that the money isn't needed, but sometimes what you need and what you can afford are not one and the same thing, unfortunately. So what I requested before at public forum at city council, and I'm going to state it again, is that if this money is, if you put it forward and it passes, I'm hoping that it can be phased in, so that I don't really want us to defeat the school request because I don't see a lot of wiggle room there. And I don't really want to see your request get defeated either. But combined, I don't know if both are doomed, but at least one of them will be doomed. So I just am asking if you can, if it passes, if you can make statements about the fact that it could be phased in by hiring people or rolling out those dollars, not immediately, so that it would have less of an impact. I think that would be very beneficial to the community and might garner some support. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Sharon. And it looks like we do have Romeo von Herman is online as well. Go ahead, Romeo.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
I can, and Romeo, we are trying to please try to limit your comments to 2 minutes.
Yes, sir. So I'll be brief, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much. The only thing that I just wanted to say regarding the public safety tax increased taxing is that I think it might be prudent to have a public forum style to invite people to just kind of weigh in, independent of the finance committee meeting as well as the city council meeting, just to share directly with the impact on what this taxation plus what the positive and negative pros and cons, as it were, impact this will have on everybody. And I'm personally for helping our law enforcement as best as we can in terms of funding and resources and everything available for them. But I think it might be great to just have this conversation with the community members before the council votes on it, hopefully sometime in the future, not necessarily tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Great, thank you, Romeo. All right, I am not seeing any further raised hands in the room or online, so I'm going to close the public forum and move to really our only item of deliberation tonight, which is 3.1. The resolution regarding the increase in the public safety tax rate for fire and police purposes authorized. Okay, so this body has looks like this door is not open.
Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, so here's where we are. Just to recap, the members of the public watching, level set us all. We've been talking about the FY25 budget really throughout the fiscal year in a number of ways. we have talked about this need for a police and fire tax increase a number of times here at this board. We had a work session last week with full council. There was some new questions, new information requests were made at that meeting. We have tried to answer those questions in the new documents that have been posted for the most part. I did have one request today, which we have made it one new slide to try to address, which is really to try to boil down like what is the public getting for this 3 cents per student? So it's about $1.8 million in revenue. What are the benefits of voting yes on this police and fire tax increase? And we've tried to summarize that in this new slide. Sort of in the past presentations, but this summarizes it in a new way. So Catherine can bring this up. And when we get to the full council tonight and decide, we'll try to quickly go through this whole presentation again. Much bigger audience tonight than last week's, but so this is now within that larger presentation, but did want to share this here. So what are the benefits of voting yes for this? Well, this budget, this will allow with the rest of the gap plan that we've talked about, we will be able to fully fund the rebuilding plan. The rebuilding plan in FY25 is budgeted at getting us back to 77 officers. Now, as we had some discussion on last week, we've been on track with the rebuilding plan for the first 18 months of it. We are now struggling with this year's February class at the academy. We are behind where we want to be. And so it may not, as was discussed last week, we are going to have a hard time fully getting to this level. We need some things to break in our way in the coming months, and it's unlikely that we're going to have an average of 77 officers for the full year. But the budget is there for that, so that if there is capacity in the budget to take other measures, fund other things, such as I have had from some council question about, could we do more private security? I think there are limits to the efficacy of private security. It's very effective in some places, such as this building. The private security out here has completely changed the environment in this building. It's been very good for the library. They would like more there. It's been good. It's had a positive impact in a tough situation in the garages. In the public spaces, we've had mixed results with private security, but that is one place, and we have some other summary information because that is also a recent question. One place that we could afford more private security would be, for example, if we aren't at the 77 officers, that there would be savings there that would free up for other individuals. It is out of that kind of savings you also, so that's the idea there. It's budgeted for a 77. It has us on the path to getting to what there's a council resolution signed off on saying we want to get back, we've authorized to get back to 87. This has us budgeting a big, a significant step towards getting there. This budget puts us in place, this proposal to retain all of the other new professional staff within public safety that we've created. Listed there, those staff that have been added during this rebuilding period. We do still have in this $250,000 flexible response fund, and are pulling out here. Is in one of the memos you've received. We pulled it out here. We are at the point where we need to reinvest in our body camera system. This has operational monies for that. And there is also important fire department investment for EMS and mental health resources, something that we have been investing in, been sort of catching up to what the police department has been doing for some time in the last couple of years, and it has money for that. Were we able to, I know we were working on a response today is Mr. Army still here? Do we have anything on the summarizing the private security? So, because I did have that outstanding request as well.
And one of the reasons I was party to this meeting was this is recently in your email, but so just so you know, it's there, and if it's not already, will be posted to Civic Clerk as soon as Lori Olberg can do that.
And so, Councilor Barlow, here, this isn't everywhere in the municipal budget that there has been private security, but this is, these are the three biggest private security investments that we made in FY23. We have similar things underway in FY24. So the City Hall, which has involved, there is no longer full scope. I think in FY23 that may have included the time when we were also trying to use private security in City Hall Park, which was
Yes.
Had mixed success. But we have a smaller contract, but a contract still in place for FY4 and 25 for City Hall security, for library security, and for we've been making major investments in the garage because we've been having such issues there. So that is still within the assumptions here, and then in addition to that, you have those two other kind of substantial pots I just mentioned before. Wanted, with private security, FY25, you could look to attrition savings from 77 officer assumptions and this flexible $250,000 fund. So with that, I think why don't I pause and see where it is my hope, if this is gonna happen, we need to take action tonight. It is, I think, important that the Board of Finance endorse this action. If we're gonna have council action later in the evening. So it's my hope that we're gonna get to that in the next 15 minutes or so here, but why don't I pause there? Open up for a Board of Finance discussion about where we're ready to make a recommendation, make a motion with the recommendation.
I have two
President Paul,
questions.
yes.
The first one is actually Councilor Barlow's question. I had asked on our last meeting about the adjustment in the line item as far as revenue that comes from the airport, because it's an enterprise fund, so they pay the general fund for police officers. They had 6. You had said that they were going to now budget for 7. Then it appears as though it's 8. And so I'm just sort of curious as to how it is that we can fully fund 8 and why it's 8 and not 6 or 7.
I think there has been some confusion around this item. I'm still a little confused on exactly how this is going to land, but it is unlikely, given the recruitment challenges and this has been, changing in recent months. As the recruitment sort of falls off where they're hoping to be in FY25, I think Chief Murad is now skeptical. Thinks it's unlikely there's going to be able to, that it will be possible at the airport. So there is constantly a bit of a negotiation with TSA and the airport and the police about exactly what is needed there. And there's been some evolution in thinking with the new way that security works at the airport. That's given a little bit of additional flexibility, but I believe it is in 6 or 7. But I don't believe it's.
Yes, I think we should turn it over to Councilor Barlow because I believe he spoke with Director Longo today. Is that right?
Yeah, Director Longo confirmed for me that the number will stay at 6. And he had conversations with Chief of Police. responded to. Because.
Right.
And
When I asked him a few weeks ago, it was 6, so I haven't asked him recently, but.
it appears there was some confusion, and I don't have all of the details, but it sounds like there is some upcoming federal regulations that would increase our need for officers or some kind of security at the airport. And because the conversations were held several months ago, at the time, it seemed like perhaps we had, when the rebuilding plan was fully on track, we had more flexibility, and the chief thought he may be able to accommodate that request. And so, as you know, these things go through the airport commission and quite a process before they get to us, then things changed. And so I don't think Director Longo was aware of that. And so it's my understanding he's gonna go back and update the memo to reflect that we're not in fact going to need or be able to utilize 8 in this current budget, and so correspondingly FY 25 would also be 6.
Okay, sorry for stealing your question. And then the other question I have is, I would like to see the full spreadsheet of the ARPA workout before we vote on this.
Yes.
Thank you, Councilor. I'll come back to President Paul. I'll come back to that. Councilor McGee.
Thank you, Mayor. So, I mean, I am planning to support this tonight. I do have concerns like that, concern raised by former Councilor Busher during the public forum, that we are increasing the burden on residents with the school budget and increased municipal taxes, potentially with the municipal budget. I know myself and some others won't actually be part of making the decision of whether or not to raise taxes come May or June. And so we're largely putting this on the ballot so that a future council and a future mayor have the ability to raise this tax if required when those conversations happen. And so I am supportive of that. I am a little confused and concerned about the conversation we just had about officers out at the airport. I think if federal regulations are going to require us to have more officers out there, then the federal government should be providing funding for us to have more officers at the airport. And I think if that becomes a more serious conversation, I would like to see the city engage with our federal delegation and convey our concerns as we're working to hire more officers. But I did hear that there's potentially the flexibility to have 8 officers out at the airport. So I think I don't know, I'm left with more questions than answers here tonight, and I don't feel great about that.
Thank you, Councilor McGee. Welcome hearing you're ready to support this. Just to be clear, I mean, whenever the federal government, the airport pays for any, and largely, through federal funding, the airport does pay for any police officer presence out there. So if it goes from, if there is some increase in the amount of officers, there would be that would not fall to Burlington taxpayers to pay for that. We have worked to minimize the number of officers out there in this period of extreme limited capacity of officers, in that we don't want airport needs taking away from our ability to police in the downtown. So but there isn't and maybe you see it differently, President Paul, the way you're asking the question. I mean, I don't see it as directly affecting this financial. I see it more as affecting operations than having a financial impact. because whatever the airport consumes, it pays for. If they're, you know, so do you see it differently?
I mean, my question was what I had asked last week, and it seems, I mean, I'm just looking for an answer. I mean, I just wanted to see that, you know, whatever the airport, that if they go from 8 to 6, that that affects revenue. I mean, that it's a revenue. So I'm just wondering, I mean, if it, and it relates to, it does relate to public safety. I mean, there is a link here. I mean, whether it affects whether we do a 3-cent increase or 4, that probably is neither here nor there, but you know, I do think that it's, you know, I mean, I had always thought that there were 8, and then it was a few weeks ago, there are now 6. You know, I mean, I don't think that's a appropriate question to ask.
No, it's inappropriate. I was just trying to understand what, yes, there's more revenue, but there's also to some degree more expense because you have to then pay more in overtime to fill the shifts of anyone lost out to the airport. So I don't, I do want to just make sure Councilman McGee understands this conversation does not, the federal government does pay for airport officer time. The impacts on the budget, there is this relationship as we've just been discussing, but it's not a, it's a complicated one and not one that is going to solve our budget issues. Were you done, Councilor McGee, or did you want more response?
I'm fine for now. I know we're pressed for time.
Okay, thank you. Got Councilor Chang, and then I see your hand is raised. Councilor Grant, we'll go to you next.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do you know how many headcounts do we have currently with the police department?
It changes, you know, week by week. So Catherine's pulling up the list.
I was just wondering if we can, you know, knowing that all of these resources that we are requesting to pay for police and fire services, knowing that it's not tied to any bargainings with the unions, knowing this is just operational requests, and also knowing that we have not yet met the 77 cap that we need in terms of police officers. I think it would be wise for us to consider delaying this tax increase, like March, for this month and wait until the fall, in order to have a better idea about where we are. And if there are needs, knowing that we will not be able from now to the end of 2024 to meet the cap, I think those operational requests would come from the staffing resources that we have in place in order to pay for this, right? From my perspective, we have many other items that are very important, such as the school, and also it would be hard for the taxpayers to have them all at the same time. I am not saying no, but I'm just saying let's delay putting this on the ballot until maybe November or September elections, and to continue to think about, right? And also waiting for the assessment that we are doing with all the public services. I think it would be a wise move from the city in order to one, have the school board budget passed, and to continue to work with the police department and the fire the resources. Yes. I'm not comfortable right now, knowing that we have a lot of things in the air. To go and see what absolutely is, and so we don't have this.
Thank you, Councilor Chang. Just to be clear, cannot do a mid-year adjustment to the tax rate. So the options for increasing any new revenues in FY25 are either to do it tonight, put it on the March ballot, or to spend the money to which is considerable now because of the changes in ballot law, to have a special election sometime between March and June. And so the effect of delaying it is to delay any impact on the tax rate for a full year. And unless you're gonna have the special election, and what we are saying is you cannot have, I don't think there won't be my decision ultimately, it will be the new mayor and it will be the new council, but the budget that passes in June, I don't believe it will be possible to continue everything on that public safety summary there without this additional 1.8 billion in revenue. I think you will either have to slow down rebuilding the department, you will have to cut back some of these alternative public safety resources, you will have to impact the public safety in some way. I don't, that we're already assuming very significant non-public safety cuts. So as long as, I think that would be the impact of that vote, just to be clear. I'll go now to Councilor Grant. Okay, Councilor Grant.
Hi, I'm so sorry. I'm still at work. I had to jump on a call, so I'm not sure what I just missed, but I wanted to second the request if all of us could get like a thorough write-up on ARPA. I've been concerned about, oh, we have no more opera funds, and then we seem to have opera funds. So I would like to know what's left and how it's currently distributed. Yeah, the airport has always been a very touchy situation with regards to the number of officers that were out there. During the CNA consultants review, there was a lot of kind of going back and forth with regards to the number of officers that were actually required out there by the FAA versus what we had put in the contract. Like, we shouldn't have put a number in the contract. We should be working toward what they wanted. So that would be very interesting to have a full understanding where these new figures are coming from exactly, because as was just mentioned, if we are sending officers out there and then we don't have them for inside of the city. I have a question about the equipment needs of the police department. It was pretty alarming to me to see the issue with Axion and the tasers. As a member of the Public Safety Committee, I would have liked to have seen that on a monthly chief's report earlier. I think that this is something we should have been made aware of earlier, just to have an understanding of what the department's needs are, so there's just no surprises at this time. It says Axion is in arrears. I'm curious as to what the arrears are, how much that is.
We can get that for you, Counselor Grant. I have it, but I don't have it right at the top of my head.
Okay, that'll be great. And if you could send it to all of the council, and if we could get some kind of reason as to why we would be in arrears.
Yes.
I am familiar with some of the issues around Axion and trying to get more updated software that would just lead to having better cameras and in terms of the data, the footage that's kept and how long and how accessible it is, etc. But I found that very interesting. And just also about the tasers, I feel that that's information that we should have had. So we're kind of more prepared as we're starting to discuss this, because again, as was said, this is going to hurt this year. FY25 is going to hurt a lot of people, even though we know what's coming with the education increase. We tried to prepare people, but it's still going to hurt. And so anything on top of that, we really need to have as much information in advance, because people in the community are already talking, already asking questions. So the more information that we are armed with, the better to justify what's going on. It's just, it's very difficult. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilor Grant. We're due upstairs, so I think we're at the point, if the board is gonna weigh in this, we need a motion.
I would, I just want to make a comment and then, I'd be happy to make that motion, I guess. One of the things that I've been extremely interested in and I've asked for is a schedule on when the operational analysis will be done. It's important because we're estimating that we get $3 million worth of savings out of that analysis. If we could get more, who knows if we'll get more, we'll get less, because at one point we were looking for $2 million in savings. So we increased it by 50%. But we really don't know until that analysis is done. And I'm supportive of this authorization. But for every cent that we increase the public safety tax, it represents $600,000 in revenue. So if we could get $3.6 million worth of operational savings, then we would only need to increase it by 2, even though we would have the authority for 3. So I understand that dynamic, and I'm very interested in making sure that we're looking for as much savings as we can. And I understand it's going to be a hard budget year. I've related to this board and to others on the council how hard it was when I was on the school board. We were constrained by Act 46 to spending restrictions. This is different, but it's going to be similarly tough for the city. And so I'm supportive of this ask tonight, to ask the voters to authorize us for a 3-cent increase. But as budgets are developing, I'm going to be looking very intently on where we can save some money as well. So
Thank you, Councilor Barlow. Yes, and I think we did try to make a note in one of the memos that went out that we do expect significant additional guidance from the study in time for budget decisions. So certainly in April and May, there will be at least preliminary guidance. So, and yes, to the point, I know this is as we discussed last week, but I think it's worth repeating, and especially because the history here might surprise people. We are asking for, this is a maximum increase. This lifting, it's really, we should think of this lifting the tax cap. It will be a new administration, new mayors will present a budget. That budget will have a tax rate in it. It will be up to the new council to decide whether to use all that authority or not. And many times over the course of the last 12 years, we have come in under the under that cap. So it is something that absolutely will be reviewed up until the end, and we shouldn't use it if we don't need it. If more than the 5% of cuts are found, then we can defer, using that authority until a future time when it's needed.
and so with that, I would move this conversation
Yes.
upstairs to the full council. I'd recommend the city council. This is the, I'm sorry, make sure I'm on the. I'll make the motion as recommended on civic clerk. Just to recommend that the city council approve the attached resolution.
Great. Thank you, Councilor Barlow. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councilor McGee. Any further discussion? I think we should have the discussion. I think we should go straight to a vote unless there's some objection to that. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Okay, the motion carries 3-1. Only 4 members voting. And, appreciate the work of the Board of Finance on this for some time. Without objection, completed the board's agenda. We are adjourned at 5:24 p.m. Check. Let me take us off here.